He spent his entire adult life at Syracuse University, a rarity in modern-day college athletics. But with his recently announced plans to retire, we're wondering, what's next? We'll find out, but first, hello everybody, and welcome to this first edition of Central here at Fox 68 WSYT. I'm Daniel Pluff, glad to be back on the air with you, and this time around talking about issues that will impact the Central New York community and beyond, as well as individuals who've left their mark on the community. And I must say we have a guest tonight that has done just that and beyond. It is a pleasure to welcome to our program Syracuse head basketball coach Jim Boeheim, who has been with the program quite some time. Coach, I know you're getting into your busy season, so I appreciate the time today. Couple of things I'd like you to know before we get going. Number one, I'm no sports expert. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of SU basketball, and I'm not a sports reporter, so if you're expecting some debate or argument about your zone versus man-to-man, it's not going to happen. But good. I do want to talk a little bit of basketball with you if we can, but I'd like to talk about some issues off the court too. To begin with, as I thought about this, and I'm stating the obvious and you're going to roll your eyes, but I'm thinking about, you have been up at that hill, up on the hill for 150 years. It's been forever. A player, an assistant coach. I think around 1976, Roy Danforth leaves or steps down. You become the head coach, which, if the math is correct, this is your 40th year as head coach.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Well, when I came here in 1962 as a player, I almost went home the first year. It was so tough.
Thank God you didn't.
I ran into a guy named Dave Bing, and I said, whoa. But
you guys remain friends today.
Yeah, he's a great man, a great player. And I got to play with, the greatest player I think we've ever had at Syracuse, and one of the greats ever played. Mm-hmm. So that was a great experience. And then I just hung around and got into coaching. I never left.
No kidding.
And it worked out that I got the head coaching job.
But that's the issue, I guess. And I don't know if this is right. I think I saw this somewhere. But in your 40 years as head coach, never a losing season, correct?
That's correct.
Never a losing. Yeah, well, knock away. Never a losing season. Unbelievable record, longevity and success. So I'm wondering, what made you stay? Surely you had to be tempted by offers. So Ohio State comes to mind.
A little, not too much. I'm from this area. I'm from upstate New York, Lyons, an hour away. I came here, and I like the area. The fans are supportive. We have a great place to play. We now have a great practice facility. Mm-hmm. We have as good a situation as you can have. But
you had offers. You had to have offers.
Yeah, there was opportunities, but I believe the grass is greener on my side of the fence. Yeah. I like my side of the fence. I'm not sure what's over on that other side.
Could have made more money coaching pro ball.
Probably could have made more money in a lot of situations.
Of course, you're eating. You're doing okay.
But we're doing fine, and I don't think money is not the issue. Mm-hmm. Everybody says money is the issue. It's not. Never been the issue. We make more than enough money to live and be happy. But we have the things you need to win here, and we have a great fan base, and our fans have really make the program.
No kidding.
When you can get 25,000 people to come on a regular basis,
it's unbelievable.
Syracuse winner.
So a great record, again, the longevity, the success, it's all positive, and yet how do I say this delicately? You're not. You look back on coaches like Rolly Massimino. Mm-hmm. He'd come into the Dome, an opposing coach from a great team. Mm-hmm. The crowds loved Rolly Massimino. He was a lovable guy.
Yeah,
we don't describe you as lovable. Is that just a relationship with the press, or?
Well, I don't know. I think the fans are tremendously supportive. When I go out in the community, the fans come up to me all the time. Coach, great. The media doesn't like me because I don't. I'm not the smiling guy all the time. And then I try to be fair with the media. I try to answer all their questions, and I think the vast majority of the media respects that, and actually, the vast majority of the guys I come in contact like me.
The post-game press conferences must get monotonous.
That's just kind of a fun time for me. Some of the things that happen there, I've mellowed a little bit in old age. I'm not as tough, certainly, as I used to be, and I work with students all the time. Half the press conference, or more than half, is students, so I'm happy to. And they ask good questions. By and large, once in a while, sure, they slip, but I slip too. That's all part of it. And But Rolly Massimino is, and again, he was loved at Villanova until he started losing there, and then at the end they didn't love him so much
Yeah,
anymore.
I hear you.
I mean, coaching is really any way you want to cut it. When you win, everybody kind of likes you. There's still going to be negatives, but it's when you lose that, Abe Lemons once told me, he was the funniest guy I've ever met coaching, and he said, they laughed at my jokes here until we started losing. Now they think I'm some kind of
point taken.
female guy.
So given your position and what you've done, people do look to you, I think, as a role model. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit too much is made of sports figures as role models. I think that it does happen, but my kids watch players, and they like players, they like certain players, but they don't look at them as somebody, well, I'm going to do what he does. They should look at their parents, and they should look at their teachers and their coaches. I think those are the people who are role models for kids. I mean, athletes are, somebody to be appreciated. I think you should appreciate the talent of what an athlete does. And I think that's really what people do. I think the media wants the athletes to be role models and thinks they're role models. And like I talk to my kids all the time, I mean, they like players, but they don't, like if a player goes out and does something crazy, which a player could do, my kids don't say, well, yeah, that's okay for me to do.
Yeah,
I mean, they know better than that.
Sure.
But I think that's something that's a myth of there's many myths in the media, and that's one of them.
That could be a show in itself.
That's a whole show.
Okay.
I mean, and it's fine. Media's fine, but it's just that's one of the myths.
Let's talk about some highlights then. And again, I'm not going to sit here and do a checklist because we don't have the time, and that's a compliment to you. 2003, we had the winning season, with the exception of that crazy hat you wore. With all due respect, it was a great season. Is that the highlight?
I even like the hat, but
don't get rid of it.
I think when you win the national championship, I think that's what everybody in coaching and what I thought of is all of our fans, people that called me and wrote to me how big it was for them,
huge.
How much it meant to them, or former players. There's no question. I mean, there's a lot of great games, a lot of great wins, championships, tournaments.
That was your third visit, correct?
That was the third time, and we came very close the first time, and we probably should have won, and then we lost to a great Kentucky team. But we beat a great Kansas team, and I couldn't be prouder. But I mean, you play for the national championship, but you can't let that and a championship define who or what you are. I mean, you coach 40 years, you want to be successful, you want to bring joy to the community, something people can do, certainly in the wintertime, something they can follow, and you want them to have a respectable team, a good team, and the better the better it is, the better. But that's what my goal has always been, to be consistent, to bring a good product to Syracuse, and to have good kids who represent the school well.
Are there other standout seasons that will remain in your mind?
I mean, anytime you go to the Final Four, we've been to 4 Final Fours, but I look at some of the Georgetown games and some of the epic battles there.
No kidding. I'm going to ask you about that.
The 6 overtime game with Connecticut. I mean, I look at going to Maui, win that tournament. I look at a lot of things. I mean, I don't think it should be limited to a couple things. And, as a coach, you always remember the bad losses, the hard losses, the tough losses. But there's been so many great moments and so many great players, and the great support. I try to look back on that more now and focus on that.
Good.
Because I think that's what people really should remember, and especially fans. I think fans should look and remember the good things. And
I think for the most part you do. And again, this is a similar question, but over the years it would be hard to calculate the number of players you've coached. You remember, I'm sure you remember most, if not all of them, at some level or not, and you're probably going to say, they're all equal, they're all like kids, right? Fact is, we did have some standouts.
Sure.
And without, again, going through a punch list, I want to talk to you about maybe one or two names in particular. Pearl Washington.
Well, he was a great player. He was the most exciting player we ever had, and one of our first big-time recruits, and a guy that lit up the building. Mm-hmm. People came to see Pearl Washington play.
He was a bit of a game changer, no?
Yeah, they didn't come. I mean, they come to support your team, but the extra people came to see Pearl Washington, home and on the road. Every place he played, people, we sold out. We were the first team to really sell out buildings in the Big East, and it was because of Pearl Washington. Just one of the most exciting players I've ever seen, and yet off the court, one of the most humble and quiet guys.
I never met him. Is he a good guy?
He's a quiet, good guy. Doesn't, you wouldn't know he was Pearl Washington.
Right. And of course, there's health issues. Have you been in contact?
Yeah, he's doing all right. He's doing all right, and there's the prognosis. The family's keeping everything tight,
yes.
But we think that there's a good prognosis for Pearl, and that's what we're all praying for.
I'm also curious, and again, I'm focused on this 4 decades of coaching at one spot. Are you coaching the same game today that you were in '76? Or put another way, how has the game changed in 40 years?
Well, I think everything has changed, but the fundamentals, the rock bottom line, if you want to say, in coaching is still the same. Get the players to work hard, play together, and recruit good players. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about the talent of your players. I don't win games. The players win the games. I try to get them in the right direction. But if you don't
there's been some nuances, right? Some
changes? There's always change. The three-point shots have changed. I mean, there's...
How about the shot? Are we changing the shot clock this season?
Yeah, but it's not. It's going from 35 to 30. Not a big change. There's always change. Players are a little different. There's more of a goal to get in the NBA. But we've graduated our last 8 seniors, and some of them are going to be able to play, and some of them are playing the NBA. But it's basically coaching has not changed that much in 40 years.
So I sort of, I guess you're comfortable with that, what you grew up with, and I grew up more with the Big East, and I love the Big East. You I think, help me, but I think you had a preference to getting in the ACC anyway, so it's not like you're missing the Big East, correct?
Well, the ACC was necessary for the school, for the football and basketball and all the programs. It was the best option by far. It wasn't even something to think about. I love the old Big East, but the old Big East wasn't there anymore. And we're now in a great conference with great teams and great coaches. So our fans should be thrilled because they're going to see better basketball now than they would have.
I don't know if that's possible.
Well, it's better than it would have been in the Big East as it was going forward. It won't be probably any better than it was in the past, but it's still going to be very good. And I think that's what the fans are concerned about. And for Syracuse University and Syracuse fans, it was the only move was to move to the ACC.
And I think back then, there were just such great rivalries, which I'm sure will unfold as we move more into the ACC. But one thing, too, and Coach, I don't know if this was more theater. I suspect it wasn't, but there were rivalries, it seems, between the coaches, too. John Thompson, when he would come to the Dome, there was something there between you guys.
Well, John was, we had a very contentious battle in the beginning for the first 15, 20 years. But then it mellowed a little bit at the end, but it was very contentious and very high charged, and the fan base particularly thought of it as this is the game. And John loved to come to Syracuse. He loved that attention.
But this was not a guy you wanted to go to dinner with after the game.
Well, not at that time, but I've been to dinner with him many times since then, and he's a great guy and a great friend. But that rivalry was always big, and it always will be. I mean, Georgetown isn't going to like Syracuse, and Syracuse isn't going to like Georgetown because that's the way the rivalry was. But we have great respect for each other, which I think is what's important.
I've got a question for you that part of the game, I guess, but I guess I'm more comfortable talking money from time to time. And in college basketball has really become a big business.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of money sloshing around. Sure. It's great for the networks. It's great for the schools. Sure. The merchandising, you know it, right?
Yeah.
Has college basketball almost become too big of a business in your view?
I don't feel. When I started the first year, I had a contract for $25,000. That's what I made, and I was happy. It was a good salary.
Sure.
I don't approach basketball any different today when I make a lot more money than I did then. It was to be the best we could be. Let's get this thing done. And I don't worry about the business aspect of it. Our players, get a scholarship. They get some extra money now through the NCAA, and they get a good education and a chance to become a great player if it's there for them. But I don't look at it as it is a business, but I don't look at it as a business. I look at it the same way I did when I was making virtually nothing.
But I guess maybe that's it. It's the athletes. You say they get some type of a stipend, I guess, from the NCAA, but they really don't participate in the revenue being generated. Should they be paid to some extent?
Absolutely not. I think you have to realize that the scholarship at Syracuse now is a $60,000 a year scholarship.
I got one ready to go, I know.
And they get about another, if they qualify, $5,000, $6,000 in Pell money and $3,000 extra money now. So they're also getting $8,000 now, plus the $60,000. And for an 18 or 19-year-old kid, that's a pretty good stipend. That's a pretty good income. And then if they're really good, they're using the college basketball platform to where they can make millions and millions of dollars. And even if they're not quite that good, because most guys aren't going to play in the NBA, most of our players are playing in Europe and making
good bucks.
A minimum of $75,000, but up to $500,000 playing in Europe. So there is money down the road for most college players that are at a program like Syracuse.
Yeah. So last question on this, and I think the NCAA puts out some numbers. 1% of college athletes go on to play professional. The 99 do something else, but whatever direction they take, and maybe it's not the coach's job. I don't know. I genuinely don't know who to ask this question of. But when the students either graduate or leave, it seems to me that some of them are just not really financially prepared to deal with the money that they could be making. Should we be doing a better job there?
Well, it's hard to do that, but we try to, and agents are better today. They have better financial advisors available. Some kids use it, some kids just don't use it. But we have a life skills center at Syracuse University. Every senior athlete goes through it and will get help in job preparations, resume preparations, interview preparations, and most of our guys do fine. And the 1 or 2% thing about playing professionally, that's misleading. If they're talking about basketball, that's the NBA, and that might be true, but almost any player that has played at Syracuse plays professional basketball when they're done.
At some
level.
Okay.
The D-League, Europe, overseas, the Philippines, almost every player. So you can play professionally, but we tell all of our players, let's get our degree. You're going to need it whether you're 30 or 35. You're going to be done playing basketball. So you got another 50 years. So let's get our degree and make sure we can use it.
A number of things have happened in the last year or so. And this is personal opinion, so take it for what it's worth. I think regrettably a lot of the stuff has happened not at the end, Coach, but towards the end of your career. Probably better to get it done with earlier on. Just a thought. I know there's a lot you can't comment on, and I won't put you in that spot, and you would tell me if I cross the line, feel free. But as the dust has begun to settle on everything that's taken place, are you and is the program, is the team now on better footing? Are we in a better spot than we were?
Well, we're in a great spot. The interesting thing of 8 years of an investigation, which, we had to go through, and there were some things that weren't right, but I think we were a little over-punished, but that's probably what every coach feels. But we were very successful. We had probably the most successful 8 years that we've had in the 30, 40 years history that I've been here. And last year even, the only reason we weren't successful is that Tyler Ennis and Jeremy Grant left earlier, we would have had a great team. And we're in good position, and we have good recruits coming in. We will have good recruits coming in. So we've gotten through a difficult time, and we feel that everything is in order moving forward.
I think most people, if we took a poll, most people seem to think that the punishment didn't equal the level of the violation.
Well, even
Am
that.
I being biased there?
No, I mean, even that is something that I'm not even thinking about anymore. It's done.
Okay.
We're through, and we've already moved on.
Here's something
we're fine.
Here's something that I thought about. It's highly personal, but I'm a dad and you're a dad, and I'm going to ask you this question. while all of this was taking place and the comments were running around on Syracuse.com, you're going to tell me you don't read them, and I don't know if I believe it, but they weren't, okay, they weren't all positive. You have a daughter that plays basketball, and she steps onto the court, and the quote-unquote, some of the fans that were there heckle her.
A little bit.
Which proves a point that doesn't need to be proven, which is some people are just idiots. But what I'd like to know is, at your kitchen table that night, what's the conversation? What do you say to your daughter about it?
Well, she answered in the way that I couldn't have been more proud. She says, they ask her if it bothered her, and she says, no, I'm a Boeheim. It doesn't bother me. and that's her. It didn't bother her. We talked about everything. We talk about everything in our family, everything that happens in the program, the good and the bad, like I think most people do. And they understood everything that went on, and it was explained to them, and we moved on. But you're going to get involved with the NCAA, and it's not going to be a good turnout because there's always something you might have done you didn't do exactly right, and that's what happened here. But I think it was exaggerated, and that's okay. But the important thing is that you move through it and you come out the other side, and we'll be fine.
Last question. Last question on that point. Then, as far as the sanctions and what have you. The only thing I can think of is, maybe we're going to be hurt a little bit on the recruiting side, but I'm not hearing that from you. Will that hold us back a bit?
We've had our best response from recruits this year that we've had in a long time. Okay. So we're very good, and we think that will not be a problem. And everybody worries about the number of scholarships. We won the national championship with 9 scholarship players, and we're allowed 10. So we'll be fine. Everything will be.
You're off
forward.
the first 9 games.
And that'll be difficult. The 9 games of conference.
Somebody to fill in for you?
Yeah, Mike Hopkins is ready to coach, and will do a great job. But I'll have the opportunity to prepare the team, get through the non-conference part, and get them ready. And it's disappointing. It's double the most severe punishment any coach ever had, and those coaches were involved in the violations. I was not found to be involved in any violation, but I should have known about it. So that's the harsh end of the punishment. But
I can ask you a dozen questions about that, but you might not answer them. And so let's move on. After how many press conferences when the reporters asked, when are you going to retire, coach? When are you going to retire? And I love the one response, why don't you ask the other coaches, which I thought was terrific. But hang up the bunting. You've announced you're leaving somewhere between now and March of 18.
In 3 years. I think we had to get a defining date because I'm tired of answering the question. And I'm certainly not going to coach for 10 years. And 3 years is, to me, still seems like a long way off. I've been on a year-to-year basis for a while. But
which begs the question. Forgive me, but. So some were speculating that were it not for everything that transpired, maybe you would have stayed longer, maybe you would have retired earlier.
Yeah, I would say if I had to answer that now, and this is really would be speculation even on my part, because you're never sure until you do it. But I think it would have been more likely that I would have retired earlier than later. But we needed to get through this long process, and certainly was not going to run away from it. And we needed to do that. But 3 years, is a lifetime in coaching. In the next 3 years, probably 25% of college coaches will leave their program. You'll have a 25% turnover in the big programs, not maybe in all the the smaller, but in the top programs.
And there was some speculation there because it kind of went on for a little bit. Mike Hopkins, was he looking? Was he getting offers? You had conversations with him, I assume. Did you encourage him to stay? Did you encourage him to seek whatever he wanted to?
He had to look and explore things, which I think was a good thing for him. But I've always felt he would be the best coach to replace me here because he understands the program, he knows the system, he knows the people and the players. And a lot of times people have this myth, we have to get a big name coach. Well, Mike Krzyzewski wasn't a big-name coach when he went to Duke. Bob Knight wasn't when he went to Indiana. And nobody knew who Jim Boeheim was when he came to Syracuse. Nobody knew who John Thompson was. He's a high school coach. Those guys, those big-name coaches aren't the guys that are the most successful. It's the good coaches who are there and prepared and have not yet made the name for themselves, who will become a great coach, and that's what we have.
So we know who Jim Boeheim is now, and we know that you've got 3 kids. They all play basketball, correct? Are you kidding me? Couldn't they swimming?
They're
something?
tall. Well, my daughter does everything. She swims and she plays lacrosse. She's 5'11".
But I mean this as a compliment. I mean, do you want to play basketball when your father's you?
Well, when you're 6'6" and 6'4", as my sons are, that's the option that's best for them. They did play baseball, but they thought it was too boring, so they kind of gravitated to basketball. And when you have tall parents and you have basketball genes, you're pretty much going to play basketball.
I want to end on a good point, but I've got to get through a bad point to get there, and that is somewhere around 2000, 2001, you're diagnosed with cancer. Life-changing moment? Well,
it was so treatable. I kind of didn't treat it as, this is that cancer, because a lot of cancer is not treatable. I knew mine was, and I knew that it was, would be a recovery period, but not long, and that's what happened. So I guess I didn't treat it as I would if, you got cancer, and you might not come through this. I knew I would get through this based on all the facts and information. That's what prostate cancer is if you catch it early. So I was very lucky. But it inspired me to raise money for cancer research, millions of dollars we've been able to raise, and then our foundation has raised money not only for cancer research, but for kids in our area. And those are really, that's been the greatest thing, I think, in my life outside of my family and coaching, is to be able to put money back into
it's
kids
a huge success story,
in Syracuse. And what's so great is how much support we get. Other coaches try to raise money. Other schools, they raise $50,000. We raise $500,000, and we're able to put that back in the community. We put back $1.5 million from our foundation in the last 4 years, which we never thought we would be able to do.
Take this as a compliment. That will go on long after you're dead and gone.
Oh, I hope so.
I mean, that's going to be a lasting impact here, don't you think?
I hope so.
Will you work more on that later on?
Yeah, we do it. My wife does it practically full-time now. Julie's in it full-time, and we were able to raise close to $1 million a year, and we raise money for a lot of other organizations as well. But we're going to do that and keep doing that as long as we're in Syracuse, and I'll never leave Syracuse. This has been my home and will always be my home. I love Syracuse, and I think there's too much negativity, particularly from some in the media, about it snows, it's this, it's that. We have a great community here, and we have great people, and 9 months of the year we have the best weather in the world. So we'll get 8 months. I'll go 9. I'll go 9, and we'll give up the other 3. But it's a great place to live, and it's a great place to have a family.
Last question for you: Is there, all the press conferences, all the questions that have been thrown at you, is there anything that you're just waiting to be asked? Anything that needs to be asked of you that you want to make a comment on?
I've been very blessed. The only thing I ever have wanted to comment on is how lucky I feel I've been to come to Syracuse as a walk-on in 1962 and make it in basketball as a player and then as a coach, and to have so much support. People envy the Carrier Dome around this basketball world. There's a lot of great arenas. There's a lot of great places to play basketball. Nobody has an on-campus arena that 32,000 people come in for a game in the middle of the winter time, and it's the envy, and it should be the envy of everybody in the pride of everybody in New York and Syracuse that we've been able to do this here. And that's the one thing I think that I would like to say that I probably have never been asked, is how proud I am of the people of this area for supporting our basketball program. And when you talk about commentators on blogs, it's about 6 people that don't have a job.
I hear you.
Who we're not going to start worrying about those people.
Now you're getting me going, and we're out of time. We are totally out of time. In fact, I'm probably over. But Coach, I know you got a crazy schedule, and it's going to get busier shortly. I so thank you for joining us tonight. Jim Boeheim, head coach of the Syracuse men's basketball team up at Syracuse University. It's been a pleasure having you. Appreciate it.
It's been great being here.
Just a note, if you want to send us questions, comments, or even criticisms, yes, we'll take them. FoxSyracuse.com. Visit the website and send us any comments you'd like. That wraps up this edition of Central here at Fox 68 WSYT. I'm Daniel Pluff. Thank you for watching.